Well, the Warriors are in the playoffs, but it took some head-scratching moves from the Memphis Grizzlies to get them there. How are Matt and Haize feeling about their chances against Houston? Mavs management tries the double secret approach to cleaning up the Luka trade in the quotes. Oh boy. And has Zion Williamson played his last game for the New Orleans Pelicans? That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your shot clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts. From the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network, he's our Man of 1,000 podcast. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
Sure glad the Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins. So glad over Zach Edey. Great move. No one else could have drawn up an out-of-bounds play for the win that results in a 5-second violation and then defensively lets 7 seconds run off the clock with Steph Curry, then also fouls Scottie Pippen Jr. out. Phenomenal stuff all around.
To be fair, Zach Edey is a very large human. It would be tough to escort him out of the building, at least tougher than Taylor Jenkins. From the Locked On Bulls podcast, we got the Prince of Petty. It's Haize. Haize?
Bulls take on the Miami Heat today in a playing game where me and my dad have a very friendly wager, which is weird already that two Bulls fans are betting against each other. But we have a bet going on who scores more points, Kobe or Josh Giddey, and the winner has to pay $150 steak dinner. So root for Kobe White to score 30 tonight.
I was going to ask, who do you have? All right, we're going to get to that game in just a moment. We're going to hear from Locked On Heat as well. Wes Goldberg's got some thoughts on what he thinks will swing that game. But I want to talk about last night. The Warriors, they're moving on to face the Houston Rockets after a 121-116 victory over the Grizzlies that Locked On Warriors called too close for comfort.
It was Jimmy Butler going playoff Jimmy for three quarters. He had 36 through 3, 38 in the game. And it's Steph Curry, the closer. 37 overall. Didn't feel like he was playing great early. Felt like the thumb may have been an issue. And then all of a sudden you look down at the box score and you're like, Curry scored. But aside from that, no one was really great. And the Warriors were able to pull it out.
Look, you needed 75 from your top two to beat a pretty mediocre Memphis team. That overall performance is not going to get it done against the Rockets. So you won, great. You're going to have to be playing a lot better come the weekend.
A win is a win, man.
Just win, baby. You're going to the playoffs. At least you're not playing Oklahoma City.
That's the spirit. Matt, Vegas seems to love the Warriors in this series against Houston. Are you more or less confident in them and their chances to technically upset the Rockets by seeding after last night's game?
About the same, because they were who I thought they were. I just think this team is a lot of smoke and mirrors. Now, I'm not going to be surprised if they beat the Rockets, because the Rockets don't have any half-court offense to speak of. And there's still this question of, how are they going to score consistently? I think this is going to be a brutal series. I think it's going to be physical. I think we're going to have altercations. I think it's going to be nasty. I think it's going to be amazing to watch. I also think that Amen Thompson is about what the perfect prototype of what you would build to try and defend Steph Curry, who's dealing with a hand injury. And, playoff Jimmy? Is it playoff Jimmy or is it play-in Jimmy? Which one is it? And 2 points in the fourth quarter? Is that right? 2 points, 36 through 3, 2 points in the fourth quarter. I think the Warriors probably get this done, but I have it real close, and I'm not going to be surprised at all if Houston wins the series.
This series is, I think this is going to give vibes of 2009 Boston Celtics, Chicago Bulls first round series, one of the best first round series of all time. Now that team was missing Kevin Garnett in that series, but it was a drag out fight. It went 7 games. Every single game was close down the stretch of that game. That's how I see this series going against the Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets. Whoever comes out, I can see either team winning. I personally lean more on the Rockets. I know they're inexperienced, but I just I know they have half-court offense issues, but the defense is so good. And when you look at what Jimmy and Steph had to do last night, they got to the free throw line, if I'm not mistaken, to combine 31 times. I don't necessarily see that happening against the Houston Rockets. I think their perimeter defense is so good that Jimmy and Steph are going to have to make sure they're shooting. And Jimmy, who does not like taking 3-pointers, he's going to have to take some against the Houston Rockets, or just hope that they have nobody that can defend him. But Amen Thompson is going to be a very big piece to this series, I think, for the Rockets.
Haize,
Yep.
Who's missing more games than this series? Dylan Brooks or Draymond Green? Who misses more games due to suspensions?
I think Dre knows what's on the line. I think he has veterans around him that'll keep him a little bit calmer. I'll say Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, because that stopped Draymond before.
That's true. Yeah.
34 free throw attempts for Golden State, 23 for the Memphis Grizzlies. Officiating certainly a topic in this game as well. On the Grizzlies, they were in this game late despite an ankle injury mid-game that hobbled Ja Morant. A lot was made of Grizzlies interim coach Tomas Isolo's decision to cross-match center Zach Edey onto Jimmy Butler for, I think, the first 3 quarters of the game. Then you had the 5-second call that ended the game. Haize, your thought on Isolo's first postseason game as head coach and any potential regret that Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman might be feeling today?
I mean, I think you make that move for reasons other than just this playing series or just this postseason. You made those moves for other reasons. I still don't think that they should have removed their head coach. They should have let it go through. But that has to be something that haunts him. Like, as he gets ready to see who's going to win tonight's matchup and who they face on Friday, that decision is going to – me and Matt have been telling – they just need to watch Locked On NBA. Me and Matt have been telling you guys for so long that Zach Edey is going to be unplayable at times. You played him at an unplayable time. It didn't make any sense to have Zach Edey out there on the court.
What's weird is, like, he keeps winning his minutes, and I'm just like, he can't keep getting away with it. It's driving me absolutely crazy. Like, he got all these offensive rebounds, but he lost half of them. And then, like, there's a sequence where it's like, all right, he comes down with an offensive rebound, should just, like, go back up and dunk it or put the put back up. He brings it down, gets tied up. They have a jump ball. He wins the jump ball. The Grizzlies get a 3 out of it. Does Zach deserve credit for that? I guess he does. I did not like the matchup. I missed Brandon Clark last night. I missed Jalen Wells. If the I'll say this, Grizzlies fully healthy with Brandon Clark and Jalen Wells, they win that game.
Yeah, they win that game.
Do they win a game against the Mavs or Kings? We'll have to wait to find out who they will play after tonight. I want to go to the Hawks and the Magic game. The Hawks gave the Magic a scare out of halftime, but solid performances from Paolo and Franz, combined with a team-leading 26 points from Cole Anthony, were enough for a runaway victory and a date with the Boston Celtics. Magic fans were chanting, "We want Boston," at the end of this game. Matt, is that a careful what you wish for sort of thing? Or do you give the Magic a puncher's chance in that series?
Fewest average 3-pointers made by the Boston Celtics by opponent this season. Number 1, Orlando Magic. They've made the fewest threes against the Magic as against any team. They've averaged the second fewest attempts versus the Magic against any team. The problem is that all of the Celtics rotation guys won their minutes by about 7 points per 100 possessions or better. So it's a big gap here. Orlando's going to have to find – it's going to have to be, Haize, like when you were in college and you were scrounging between the couch cushions for change so you could either go to the bar or get gas. That's what they're going to have to do on offense to try and scraps. They need an outlier performance from somebody. Anthony Black, Caleb Houston, anybody – to be able to fill in some offense. The defense, I think, is going to keep this within range for Orlando. I think they can hang in this series game by game. I just don't know if they're going to be able to actually pull off the win in enough to keep the series competitive.
First, you have a lot of faith in me if you think that I was scrounging up cash for gas. Now, we could walk. Beer was the most important thing in college. That's the first thing. But other than that, the Magic, they're going to have to really rely on that defense. They're going to need, like that performance from Cole Anthony in the fourth quarter of last night's game. You're going to need somebody to step up like that almost every single night. But I do give the Orlando Magic a puncher's chance because of that defense. They've looked so much better here basically since mid-February. And I think that they've gained the momentum at the right time. I see the series going 6 games. I still have the Boston Celtics winning it out, but I do think that to say that the Magic don't I wouldn't say that the Magic don't have any chance against this. They're going to need Paolo. They're going to need Franz to be every bit. They're going to have to be better than what they were last night, for example. And you're going to need somebody else to step up on any given night to make it interesting against the Celtics.
All right, Heat Bulls tonight to decide who plays against the Atlanta Hawks. We'll have more on that game. Plus, the Mavs They met with the media to try to explain the unexplainable, the Luka trade. I'll ask Matt and Haize how Nico Harrison and Rick Welts, how they did. Coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every missed call could be a missed opportunity. Think about it. Last time that you had a service emergency, did you wait for a call back? Probably not. That's why you need OpenPhone. It's the #1 business phone system that streamlines your customer communication and helps you scale, all from an app that's on your phone or computer. I love that I don't need to carry 2 phones. With OpenPhone, I can manage business calls and text from one app. No separating the business and the personal. Whether I'm at my desk or on the go, my favorite feature is the shared inbox. Your whole team can jump into any conversation without missing a beat. Plus, the AI call transcripts and summaries are game changers for staying on top of follow-ups and customer interaction. And right now, OpenPhone is offering listeners of Locked On NBA 20% off your first 6 months. That's 20% off. Just go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you're switching from another provider, they'll even port your number for free. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. This episode of Locked On NBA is also brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? With the Fire TV Stick 4K, you can play top Xbox titles, no console required. Just grab your controller, sign into your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription, and dive into games like EA Sports College Football 25 and Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It's gaming made simple. With Wi-Fi 6 support and auto low latency mode, gameplay is smooth, it's responsive, perfect for competitive players, and if you're always on the go, Fire TV Stick 4K is way more portable than dragging that giant console around. So you can game or stream wherever you are. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. That's Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select Fire TV devices. Turn your TV into your gaming hub with Fire TV. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. During a private roundtable for the media, Mavs general manager Nico Harrison, when asked about trading Luka Doncic, said this, quote, "There's no regrets on the trade. Part of it is doing the best thing for the Mavs," unquote. And then Dallas Mavericks CEO Rick Welts, also commenting on the Luka trade, said, quote, "The Golden State Warriors once traded Monta Ellis for Andrew Bogut. They got better because they had a guard named Steph Curry, and Steph Curry came in and made the entire fan base love him," unquote. We'll hear from Locked On Mavs in just a second, but I've got to get some opinions from Matt and Haize on those 2 quotes and everything that they heard from this super secret meeting with the media. Matt, we'll start with you. What do you think?
What world do they live in? Like, how bubbled is this? Where it's like you genuinely believe these things. This is not Monta Ellis. This is not Monta Ellis. Like, you traded Steph Curry. Like, you traded Steph Curry after the 2013 playoff run. That's what you did. 2014, maybe. Like, that's what you did. The hubris. And to say, like, well, I've got to do what's in the best interest of the Dallas Mavericks. That's so out of touch with how the fans feel. How could you be this out of touch with it? And then the whole thing to me, Haize, reeks of hubris, which is so often the downfall with front offices when they believe that they are smarter than the game, the system, the NBA at large. You can be different, and that's good. But trying to think that you are smarter and better is where you wind up in situations like this, where you have essentially killed a franchise.
As the father of an almost 19-year-old, shout out to Xavier's birthday's tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Xavier.
Once he reached teenage times, there were certain things that he did. I literally had to look at him and just think to myself, "Are you stupid?" There's several times over the course of parenting a teenager that they just do things and you're just like, "What? Why did you think that was okay?" That's what this whole scenario is with Nico Harrison. It's just like every time he talks and opens his mouth, I just find myself looking at it and thinking, What? Like what? Why did you think that was what you needed to say there? To make the comparison to Monte Ellis, you had, like, to Matt's point, you had the Steph. You in this case, you traded Steph for Monte Ellis. That's what you did here. Like, it's so out of touch that I'm so glad that I'm not a Mavericks fan, because as much stupidity as I've dealt with as a fan of the Chicago Bulls and White Sox, I haven't reached that level of stupidity, and it's crazy.
Doug,
Okay, so
are you glad that you're not a Dallas Mavericks fan? Would you rather be a Hornets fan?
Well, I want to actually, it's funny you bring that up. I have a question that's related to that coming up, but I want, so to put a pin in that, hang on to that. But I want to ask about this because you mentioned hubris. Haize, you mentioned stupidity. Is it also a sign of a Dallas Mavericks ownership group that doesn't really have its hand on the steering wheel enough? Because, I mean, you go from someone that had their hand on the steering wheel very firmly, and Mark Cuban, and now to an ownership group that seems to be almost forcing Nico Harrison to speak on this. I've seen some reporting that said that they really didn't want to do this media availability, but Patrick Dumont put the sticks to them and said, no, you got to go say something. And so this is what we get. Is this a sign of an ownership group that really has no idea how to manage this franchise?
I just think that they're lost, man. You want to know how they don't know how to manage this franchise? When they were like, oh, you want to trade Luka? Oh, okay. I mean, if you say so. No. That's a hard no there. For me, I think this gets into Mavericks fans wanted Cuban gone. Like they did. They were like, he needs to get out of basketball operations. They wanted Donnie Nelson fired. They wanted Rick Carlisle fired. They wanted Mark Cuban gone. And they got their wish. And like, this is what you're left with, man. Like sometimes when you have an organization that put together so many years of contention, the Mavs were good from like 2003 through 2015. And then again from like 2019 through 2024. Like on some level, like be okay with the success that you've been given and don't be so itchy for change. Because sometimes, man, the grass is not greener.
All right, let's hear from Nick Angstead, from Locked On Mavericks, who keyed in on another quote from Nico Harrison and its implication for fans in Dallas.
Fans wanted Luka's title, and you took away that ability for them to have that. That's something that's even more special than just getting a title. Nico was asked later in this presser if he felt like he had an obligation to the fans, and obviously he said no. He said, no, I have an obligation to the Dallas Mavericks in the best interest of them. Isn't the best interest of the Mavericks keeping their fan base around, keeping their fan base not pacified and happy? You don't have to cater everything you do. You don't have to do fan service, but you do owe something to the fans to understand how it feels to be them, to feel where they are in their position. And you don't base everything you do off of that. But the fact that you did this in secret in the first place to try and avoid the backlash at the beginning and to avoid the Luka coming out and making his own moves on this was out of fear. Fear of what? Fear of what has happened, right? So to have no regrets on this, I think is just absolutely wild.
Okay, so for teams that did not make the play-in or playoffs, it's exit day season. You've got the general manager and you've got the coach and you've got the players coming out and speaking on the season. And on Locked On Hornets, we've been talking a lot about the team's obligation to a fan base that hasn't seen playoff basketball in 10 years. They haven't had a playoff series win in 23 years. The Hornets right now are preaching patience and process. The Mavs are preaching defense wins championships. But this all feels of a piece with something that you've been talking and writing about, Matt. At some point, results matter. And what the fans want, particularly if it's a Luka level talent, should matter, right, Haize? I mean, at what point does a franchise say, you know, we ought to listen to the people that pay for tickets, that come to the games, that watch us on television, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely take that into consideration. Now, I will say this, fans can be fickle, so you don't want to listen to everything that the fans say, but in a case like this, like, you just continue to be tone deaf and you've alienated the majority of your fan base. Like, and this is not something that you, like, I do think there's a world in which you could sell on a Luka trade, but they didn't do it that way. And it didn't seem like they had any intent on doing it that way. And making a trade that actually seems like you're making a future for your team or trying to make your team better in the long run. They took the first trade that was on the table. They didn't start a bidding war, and all those things are going to turn your fan base against you. So, yeah, being as tone deaf to the fan base is what the Mavericks are in this case, and shifting the franchise like this, goes back to the buzzword for the Mavericks. It's stupidity. That's just all it is. It's utter and simple stupidity. That's what this is. And, I don't know how they can recover from this with this same front office being in place. Maybe they can. Maybe they're going to pull a rabbit out of their hat and do something that nobody's expecting. But barring that, I don't know if this tide turns on them anytime soon.
I do not remember a time when a front office and ownership group has ever misunderstood the fans more than this. To be so disconnected from this, it is absolutely baffling that they could fail to understand Mavericks fans this deeply. Like what Nick said there is so accurate. Like they wanted that moment. They wanted it with Luka. That was their guy. You can't take that away from them. You definitely can't take that away from them unless Luka Doncic is like, I'm out. And then you turn it on him and use it to rally the fan base and sell more tickets. Come on. This is like 101 here, guys.
To answer your question, Matt, it's not a question of whether I would rather be a Mavs fan or a Hornets fan. It's just become part of who I am. It's my identity. I am a sicko. I have no choice but to be a Hornets fan. I am stuck in this dungeon for however long the Hornets want to continue to be patient and continue to lose. But, and I think this sort of goes to the conversation, like, what's the Mavs, it's MFFL, Mavs fan for life? You can be a fan and still check out from the organization for a little while because I think fans have a voice. They have a wallet that they can use in order to influence an organization. And it will be interesting to see. I think we've seen some reporting that that's already happening with the Dallas Mavericks, and we'll see if it continues to happen. If they don't get better answers, or maybe no more answers, maybe not talking is the best way to figure this all out moving forward. I don't know.
It's Paige Becker's season in Dallas. That's the end here.
That's the hope that they have there.
Exactly. All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, we're going to take it back to the floor. We're going to talk Bulls, Heat, and if this whole play-in idea, if it's working, should 10 seeds still be involved in the play-in moving forward? That's coming up on Locked On NBA. Episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Skims. Skims, the brand known for redefining comfort, is now making underwear for men. And if you've heard the hype, it is real. Whether you prefer boxer briefs, classic briefs, or something in between, Skims has created a men's line built for comfort, performance, and everyday wear. You're going to get ultra soft, breathable materials that move with you and keep their shape all day. No riding up, no bunching, no sagging, just right in the place where it's supposed to be. Whether you're working out, traveling, or just lounging, Skims men's underwear is designed to feel like a second skin. Lightweight, supportive, seriously comfortable. If you're on Team Briefs, you should try the Skims Boxer Brief. They are perfect for an active lifestyle. They move with you, never lose their shape. They stay in place all day, whether you're working out or just running errands. They're the most comfortable and reliable underwear you're ever going to own. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. That's skims.com/LockedOnNBA or in Skims stores. And after you check out, be sure to select podcast in the survey and choose our show in the drop down. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We're going to head back to the hardwood and talk about Bulls Heat tonight, the Eastern play-in matchup between the 9 and the 10 seed. Locked On Bulls and Heat did an in-depth preview on a crossover show. Let's hear from Wes Goldberg of Locked On Heat on what could swing this for Miami.
When I think about who needs to step up for Miami, I go right to Tyler Hero. The one thing that Hero is going to see the entire game is drop defense. He's going to see it. Even when Chicago goes to zone, it's essentially sort of the same thing. They operate it sort of the same way. They're going to, if you can get Hero in a pick and roll with whoever Vucevic's guy is in the moment, Hero saw a ton of drop defense last week. And if he just goes like, I don't know, if he shoots 60% against that drop and goes off for 30 something points, I mean, it's a playing game. Like that could swing it.
Haize, the Bulls and the Heat are very familiar with each other when it comes to the play-in. They're going to meet for the third straight season. Chicago 0-2 in the last two play-in meetings, having scored only 91 points in each of those outings. The good news is the Bulls are 3-0 this season against the Heat. How can the Bulls achieve a different play-in outcome tonight?
They're going to need Kobe and Josh Giddey to be who they've been on the back half of the season, but they're also going to need somebody to step up and really hit their three-pointers, whether that's Modest Buzelis, whether that's Kevin Huerter. They're going to need one of those guys to step up because Josh Giddey and Kobe White can only do so much. And with the way that the Miami Heat can go into his own defense, it can cause some issues. Now, I don't think that the Miami Heat have the perimeter defenders unless Wiggins channels old Wiggins in the playoff run with the Golden State Warriors. I don't think that they have them that can completely shut them down, but they can make the night difficult for them. So the Bulls are going to have to really keep their heads up. They're going to have to play with that pace. Hope that the Miami Heat can't slow the game down too much because the last time we played, not in 2022-23, we were also 3-0 against the Miami Heat, and we won those games by an average of like 13.5 points, and we still lost. So Eric Spoelstra's a really good coach. We all know that, and I trust him to have his guys ready. So the Bulls are going to have to come in here with a game plan and really force the Miami Heat to play into their hands, because if you play into the Heat's hands, you're then in Eric Spoelstra's grasp, and that's I don't know if Billy Donovan can coach them out of that.
Nikola Vucevic is 13-9 straight up versus Bam. That's the thing. Yeah. Vucevic is 13-9 versus I was expecting to see very much the opposite when I looked that up. I really don't have a feel for this. I think these two teams, this is like the most play-in of the play-in games. This is about as play-in as you can get between these two teams. I lean towards Bulls. It's the spread on this is only 1 point, which I think is accurate. Like, it's a coin flip, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I lean towards Chicago. I just kind of trust in the guys that they've got playing right now, guys that are contributing in multiple levels. I think that they're going to have a lot of success in the second unit. We'll see. Jaime Jaquez had a really great game in the last game of the season. We'll see if that carries over, if he can give them anything. But there just doesn't seem to be a lot of firepower on Miami at this point, and Chicago surprisingly has like a lot of guys who he's pretty good. So I like the Bulls here to go ahead and advance to the final playing game versus the Hawks.
So we are part of a local podcast network, and obviously these games are meaningful to the local markets that are involved. And in Miami's case, in a weird way, it's sort of reverse meaningful in that if they make the playoffs, they're going to lose access to protections on future picks and potentially their pick this season, this coming off season as well. But are these games meaningful on a national level? Is this play-in situation working? Should we still be including the 10 seeds, or should we go back to the bubble format where you had to be within a certain margin? Matt, is this all working for you still?
No, and I hate it because I really love the play-in. I like the idea, and I love what it's created with that race down the stretch of those teams absolutely just scrapping. Like Clippers Warriors was so great because so much was on the line there, because these teams are just like, yeah, if you lose 2 games, you're out. And the problem is that if the 10 seeds don't make it this year, so whether it's tonight or on Friday, if the 10 seeds don't make it, they're going to be 0-10 in making the playoffs. And I get that that's like a small sample across 5 years. It's not nothing. And I lean towards it's better if we have 9 play 8 and the winner plays 7. And then that's kind of how it is. A 7 gets a spot, but they could drop to 8. And that's kind of how it goes. I don't love that because I do like the threat of, hey, if you lose 2 games, you're out. I like that part of it. It's just really tough because it's like, it's going to be a long, the gap does seem to be something, Haize, in like the gap between these teams where it's like 7 and 8, pretty close. 8 and 9, pretty close. 10, not so much. And that I don't know how to kind of get around that as a solve for all the things that the play-in provides.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the play-in more than I initially thought. I think that, for the basketball viewer, it's great. I think sometimes these franchises convince themselves they're closer than what they are by making the play-in repeatedly. My team has been a sufferer of that at times, so I know that. That's where it gets dangerous. But as far as, like, taking out the 10 seed, there's no suspense then if the last game is, hey, both these teams are going to make it. They're just playing to see who's going to be the 7th seed. And that, I wonder if that, like, is going to be as enticing and entertaining for the basketball viewer. So I get it that the 10 seeds have not won any, have not made it to the playoffs. But I think you kind of have to keep it in for the nature of what you're trying to make this play-in be. And then, I mean, of course, eventually one of them is going to make it, and then you have that storyline. So
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Final thing here on the show today, Joe Dumars is finalizing a deal to become the new president of basketball operations for the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans have been injury-stricken, but even after trading Brandon Ingram, there are still questions about which direction this franchise could head and whether it will be with Zion or without. Here's Locked On Pelicans host Jake Madison with his take on the hire.
He won a title. It's a really good track record. But the latter half of his tenure was bad. And when you look at that Detroit Pistons team in 2014, the real final couple of years there, it really did look like the NBA had kind of passed Joe Dumars and the team building by. Head coaching hires, disaster. Free agents, disaster. Trades, bad. Drafting, abysmal. He's going to have some real tough conversations with Zion Williamson to see if maybe he can get through to Zion Williamson in a way that David Griffin was not able to do. This is a team that, if healthy, could have competed next year. But now I think things are in a whole lot of disarray. And trust me, a rebuild is going to be a whole lot longer and more painful than people realize it will be.
The rumor mill right now churning with conflicting reports of Joe Dumars being mandated by ownership to trade Zion Williamson and reports that Dumars wants to work it out with Zion and might be one of the few people who can work it out. We're going to have plenty of opportunities in the offseason to really dig down into this, but just want to get your initial thoughts on what Dumars should do here. Haize.
I mean, I think that you can be open to all possibilities. You listen to see what you have out there for Zion. If it's a deal that you feel like is good, then strike on it. But I think it may be beneficial to both sides to wait another season. There's going to be a lot of teams that are set up for the summer of 2026 to have money. And if they miss out on their targets, Zion could be a good consolation prize for those teams. So give it another year, see if Zion can stay healthier, see what it looks like with, moving Brandon Ingram out and making some other little small changes and hope that you have better health this season and then make that decision. I don't think you need to absolutely make it this season because I think there are going to be options in the summer of 26 for the Pelicans out there as well with Zion.
You're going to have to show me a move by the Pelicans working out for me to believe it. That franchise is just snake bit, man. Yeah. It's just so bad. If they trade Zion, he's going to be an all-star, and whatever they get in return is going to sour. They traded AD for a pick that should have been absolutely amazing. There's no way LeBron's going to still be playing in 2025. Yeah, they're getting a bottom 3 pick this year. Nothing ever goes right for them, and I just can't. If they keep him, he's going to keep being injured and disconnected. It's going to take some player is going to have to come in and change everything about the Pelicans, and I cannot see it. They need a black swan event more than any team in the league.
As someone that covers the Charlotte Hornets, you'll have to forgive me if I don't cry tears for the New Orleans Pelicans, who did win the lottery for Anthony Davis and did win the lottery for Zion Williamson. And if they win the lottery again, I don't know. I might not show up to work for a few days. Matt, you might have to take over as host for a few days after that.
I got you, Doug.
All right. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Thanks to Matt and Haize for their expertise. Listen to Locked On NBA Game Night on this feed for recaps of both play-in games. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other, and we will see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.